began with a bang, and then it got crazier. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone with Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and welcome to part 2 of my understanding, I think is the best way to put it, of the Anthem One interchangeable chip LED light. Now, as those of you who have already seen the shootout video know, and I'll put a link down below up above if I remember, this is a journey that began at PPE last fall in New York, continued through emails and phone calls over the next few months with the light's inventor, Justin Eugene Evans, and then just a couple of weeks ago, found cast, crew, investors, friends, family, and yours truly, in the Santa Fe Desert in New Mexico for the filming of a sci-fi western short called Honor Among Thieves. It was written, directed, and produced by Justin, who is not only the inventor of Anthem One, but a former filmmaker himself, in order to make a point that there's a new sheriff in town. Yeah, that was really cheesy. The idea actually was to stop talking about what the Anthem One can do, stop spec-splaining, and show it instead. Light a Hollywood-level, old Western town set exclusively with Anthem Ones. No jokers, no M18s, no C-stands, no grip truck, no generators. Put differently, the Anthem One is so intriguing in its basic premise, output, and industrial design, accompanied by claims for it so bold that a different level of testing than the kind I'm equipped to do here in the Batcave or Bat Studio was required. Ergo, my preference for the word understanding rather than evaluation. But let's get into it. At its heart, the Anthem is a $1,500, 160-degree beam angle LED fixture with what Justin and the team call interchangeable LC LED modules. These are chip-on-board LED cards, each dedicated to a single color temperature or purpose. Daylight tungsten, black light, red light, green light for green screen, ultra bright or ultra color, so that output is uncompromised the way most bicolor LED lights are by design and necessity. I generally prefer bicolor LEDs for our work here at Three Blind Men and an Elephant because they are an ultra-quick way to match and amplify ambient lighting. They run cool and can even run on cine batteries, but I am not unaware that this means maximum output occurs around 4000K when both types of LEDs are at peak brightness, and that at the typical 3200K and 5600K values for tungsten and daylight, that output drops, although hold that thought. I have also noticed color shifts in these kinds of lights as you go up the temperature scale, even allowing for white balance adjustments. What Justin and the team have done is essentially bring the old school to the new, the equivalent of interchangeable disposable bulbs, those LC LED cards, that happen to last for tens of thousands of hours with instant on-off, and which rest in a robust fixture whose cost can be amortized over many years. A fixture which can support new LC LED cards as advances in the technology improve brightness and energy efficiency over time, simply by removing 4 little screws, swapping out the card, and then refastening them. I think this is clever not only for its modularity. You can also chain Anthem Ones together, snap them together really, but because LC LED cards are safer, draw less power, and are more environmentally friendly than traditional tungsten and especially HMI bulbs. But it's also not just the concept, it's about the light emitted as well. The unusually wide 160-degree beam angle delivers, depending on the card, scores between 92 and 98 CRI, and we're not going to get into a discussion of which metrics are the best for that, with lumen rating between 20,000 and 30,000. By comparison, my 2 favorite lights right now, the Aperture COB 120T for Batcave lighting like this, and LS half W for 2-shot interviews like this, offer single color temperatures, no option to change them except via gel, which is fair enough, with beam angles of 120 degrees bare. Once you add a reflector to the 120T, the beam angle drops to 60, and with their optional Fresnel kit can be further reduced to anywhere between 12 and 40 degrees, with corresponding increases in brightness. Of course, the reason for doing this is less about constraining the angle than in fact punching up that brightness. What I can't specify for you with absolute precision is an apples-to-apples output comparison, because while both companies quote CRI for assessing the quality of the light, when it comes to quantifying output, Aperture quotes foot candles and lux, while Anthem One's team quotes lumens, and foot candles too, but at different distances. And I'm really not interested in spending time with the math at this point. And the bogey for the Anthem One, anyway, is not the COB 120, but 300D. Okay, fine, I did a little math, and I think it's right, but those of you more familiar with inverse square law and lighting metrics, please let me know if I've gotten it wrong. But based on lux measurements, I've equalized for distance at 1 meter, while the 300D generates 11,000 lux at a concentrated 60 degrees via reflector. The Anthem One, with a 60-degree beam concentrated by reflector and lens, yields about 12,500 lux, which confirms to me my eyes and instinct. One, these two LEDs are not far apart at 1 meter for brightness, an appropriate distance for me here in the Batcave and when doing two-shot interviews using the relevant light modifiers, unless adding a lens at 1 meter for a 60-degree beam spread with the aperture is possible, in which case this calculation is incomplete. 2. Metrics in lighting are more important and nuanced than many people realize because 3. Distance and how big an area one is trying to light with what evenness of spread change the worth of comparisons of brightness at 1 meter. Ergo, 4. There are valid and useful distinctions between lumens, a measure of total output, and lux/foot candles/candelas, all of which are about light intensity, that is, the amount of light for a given surface area. 5, why practical tests like lighting an old western town or sneaking inside, say, a gigantic theater to beam and measure the Anthem One and aperture 300D light fields at a stonking huge screen are so important. This is the reason why Justin shot Honor Among Thieves, and next week, after I've already recorded this, why he and Ruben are doing exactly that. Well, not quite. They do have permission at the Marcus Majestic in Waukesha, Wisconsin, not far from where Justin lives, which is pretty darn cool. And 6, why companies like K5600 provide photometry data for, say, its Joker 400 at a number of distances going all the way out to 20 feet. Anyway, talking about practical a little closer to home. Prior to going out to New Mexico, I'd been using the Anthem One here, and it worked well. Beautifully built, it reminded me more of a Mark Levinson amp than a lighting fixture, both built to what I'd call overkill standards, certainly at least for what we do here. In the Batcave, an aperture 120 or a pair of LS half Ws work wonders and are so quiet I generally do not pick them up on audio. My eyes told me that the Anthem One delivers so much more power than these that I finally decided to take off my normal 36-inch Bowens mount softbox and bounce the Anthem One into the wall instead, creating an even more enveloping light. Oh yeah. This leaves me excited to explore what it can do for a two-shot when I film conversations, but I need to figure out how I want to diffuse it first, and how much better and easier that may actually be than taking, say, a couple of 120s and diffusing them with the usual softbox or silks. But while quieter than other lights I've recently tested, I have to add that the Anthem One's dual fan systems, one in the power supply and one in the head, while dramatically quieter than an onset generator, are louder than the apertures, necessitating 2-pass runs on Isotope's really outstanding RX-7. But since I haven't fully sorted out RX-7 yet, my audio processing of late has been a little weird sounding, I admit it. I also learned that the Anthem One is much more sensitive to the kind of dirty power that original 1954 wiring in 2019 is likely to deliver than the lesser lower draw consumer and prosumer LEDs I've been using in testing, leading me to purchase an Isobar 8-plug extension from TripLight, through which I now run all my lights and is the reason why I'm not actually using the Anthem today. A bit more on the design and construction of the unit itself. I've already said a number of times in a number of ways, it was the industrial design which hooked me the moment I saw it. I think it's appropriate to say it's the kind of design that could only come from a fanatic, and I mean this in the best possible way, someone who is absolutely dedicated to design integrity, functional performance, and modularity. The Anthem One oozes an extraordinary commitment to detail on everything from cooling at any angle to light modifiers currently on the drawing board that threaten to upend the conventional wisdom of how deep or how wide, for example, a diffuser has to be. This is really interesting to me personally. Even the circuit board looks beautiful, and the first 25 units built carried a small plate inside with the names of all of those responsible for its development engraved upon it. Remind you of anyone? On the other hand, It also has to be said that the Anthem One is a first-generation product, never more clearly confirmed by the fact that the Anthem One Mark II is already on its way to be announced, I think, at Whippy. But it can also be said that the first-generation feeling manifests itself in a couple of other ways, from the absence of convenience features like a digital panel display or wireless remote, both of which I'm assured are coming imminently, to the clever set of 3D printed carbon fiber magnetically mounted adapters, allowing you to protect your investment in Bowens, Broncolor, Profoto, and as I recall, Elinchro modifiers, that without something called their highway bracket can separate from the head more easily than one would like, especially as the weight of those accessories moves forward, as is the case with a 2 or 3 foot deep softbox. Though this too is being addressed as I'm recording this, I alluded to that earlier. And while the Anthem One is dramatically smaller, lighter, and less expensive at $1,500, actually call it $1,700 when you add in the mount adapter and highway bracket, than, say, an $11,000 Arri M18, hold that thought, it is dramatically heavier at 7.6 pounds for the head alone and more expensive than, say, the $1,100 4.6 pound Aperture 300D with integrated Bowens mount. The Anthem One's power supply is almost as heavy again, so portability is a relative thing. But I am most fascinated by the intersection of the Anthem One and its creator. Justin is arresting by virtue of his personality, his background as a filmmaker, and his claims for the Anthem One. As I said in the lighting shootout, and as I alluded to moments ago, Justin and the Anthem One remind me of nothing so much as Steve Jobs and his Next Cube, and the original Mac, now that I think about it, with all of the ups and downs that implies. And make no mistake, Justin is intent on reshaping the lighting industry, at least in Hollywood, slaying giants, tilting at windmills. Pick your own, let's make this particularly hard metaphor. It's never easy taking on an entire industry and proving there is a better way to go. Prove, for example, that what used to take a 10-ton grip truck with full G&L crew can now be packed into a single minivan and handled by a much smaller crew. Prove that a single $1,500 Anthem One, as I mentioned a moment ago, can yield the same results in the real world under certain use cases as a, silked, which I'm told is apparently how they are most often used, M18. Prove the 5 Anthem Ones, mounted on nothing more than Manfrotto stands, forget about C-stands, let alone cranes, can light an entire Old West film set on regular house current, no generators necessary. Or prove that an Anthem One, by virtue of its superior design, modularity, heat management, build quality, and wider beam spread, warrants just about a 50% premium over the Aperture 300D for smaller productions, which, again, is exactly what Justin set out to do, first by organizing the shootout, and then beginning principal photography the very next day, filming Honor Among Thieves in just 4 nights at the Eves Movie Ranch, just outside of Santa Fe proper, which is what you saw in the opening minutes of today's video. All shot handheld, no gimbal, no nuttin', on the little micro 4/3 Panasonic GH5 and G9 up to ISO 12,800, but that's another story for another time. I was privileged to the point of exhaustion, witnessing the shoot in real time, arriving back at the local La Quinta around 2 a.m. each morning. I'm really looking forward to seeing the final cut. Which leaves us exactly where at this point? Well, first, are we really looking at a disruptive technology? My instinct says yes. LED technology has already proven to be a disruptor. Chip-on-board LED design, the next wave, and Anthem One with its interchangeable LC LED cards takes it to the next level, especially on what have heretofore been big-budget films. I observed that setup and takedown at the Eves Movie Ranch, a Hollywood-style lot, were quick. The Anthem One is tiny compared to the traditional big boy lights of Hollywood, but it did put out a lot of light. It took just 5 of them to light the set as if it were moonlight. The absence of a generator, that was a big deal in terms of logistics, cost, and noise. No ADR. The ability to light the set with $7,500 worth of fixtures that fit inside a minivan with a relatively small crew was impressive, as was the fact that they hoisted an Anthem One 20 or 30 feet up in the air on a single freaking stand, again to simulate moonlight. Second, will the Anthem One be a raging success, noble failure, or something else? Is it right for you? I just don't know yet. Do I expect teething pains like every other new product ever launched? Yes, of course. Though other than the aforementioned magnetic attachment of accessories and its sensitivity to dirty power, I haven't seen any. Do I expect pushback from people whose livelihoods depend on 10-ton trucks and what's inside them to make a decent living? Well, yeah, some. I saw some skepticism on set that began to ebb as the crew acclimated to the Anthem Ones, but it did not evaporate completely. And I have sympathy for them both in terms of workflow and cash flow. Irrespective of budget, the middle of a film shoot is not the ideal time or place to take risks working with new gear. Yet it has to be said that this has never stopped Hollywood, indie filmmakers, and everyone else from taking advantage of new technology that makes things better, faster, or cheaper. Do I think rental houses might find it interesting? Well, yeah, I do. On economics alone, I suspect it would have a much shorter payback period. But the open question for me is, can the Anthem One really take the kind of beating that tungsten and HMI lights routinely do on set over a number of years? Do I think indie filmmakers, one- and two-man bands, small-budget feature film producers, call it the realm of small productions, will flock to the Anthem One, replacing everything from aperture to light panels, Arri sky panels, Cineo, outside, you pick your one-man band into your small TV station light. For the moment, I think that's a tougher call because these competitors have already embraced LED technology. The distance at which they are used is typically much closer. Price sensitivity at this end of the market is greater, and price advantage of the Anthem One is smaller. I think an Anthem Zero, call it, a less expensive, less powerful, more buttoned-up version of the Anthem One for one- and two-man bands with things like wireless remote, a Bluetooth-enabled app, built-in power cleaners, and surer, simpler, less expensive modifier connections, could take share from an Aperture. For the moment, though, credit where credit is due. Aperture has really built a following and an ever-expanding set of lights and really good light modifiers with innovation, quality, and value. I suspect Anthem One Mark II could take share from the higher range of this lower end, depending on photometry, use cases, industrial design, and practice, and price, that is, of the competitors. I want to see, for example, Broncolor's $1,700 F160 continuous LED monolight, which I first saw at Photokina back last fall, but still haven't seen in production. I'll be looking at Outside's $1,000 to $1,400 or so Cream Source Mini, depending on configuration, a compact, flicker-free, up to 1,000 frames per second, constant output bicolor LED panel shortly. I have no sense yet of whether or not Anthem One will be a real alternative to something like Profoto, Broncolor, Elinchrom in the realm of high-speed studio flash photography. I simply haven't seen it in action that way. Third, is the Anthem One a morally and or environmentally appealing choice? I think this is a question we simply don't ask nearly often enough, and I've already given you a partial answer, which is to say the answer is unequivocal to my way of thinking. Yes, I can clearly see that it is more environmentally friendly. It simply draws much less power, and when the COB LED eventually dies, you dispose of the LED card only, not the entire fixture. I can see it is less dangerous to crew. No threat of UV radiation from an HMI bulb, for instance. Less weight carried over careers spanning decades, reducing the probability both of immediate and repetitive use injuries. I believe the Anthem One can bring Hollywood-level production values to a wider community of filmmakers than ever before by virtue of its price, size, performance, and modularity. But I say this with full knowledge and humility that my Hollywood-level experience consists of a sum total of less than 15 seconds of screen time. Yeah, who am I kidding? It's more like 1.5 seconds as an extra in law-abiding citizen and limitless. But I can tell you from personal experience that Bradley Cooper is a really nice guy. I do love the very existence of the light and Justin's ambition for it. And I know that I'm rooting for them to succeed. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the final cut of Honor Among Thieves, so that those of you vastly more knowledgeable than I when it comes to bigger productions can join the conversation and weigh in. I mean, what do you think it would have taken to light this movie with traditional fixtures and crew? How much would it have cost? How long would it have taken to set up and take down? What do you make of it? How appealing or not is it to you now? So Whippy is coming up next week in Las Vegas, and I know Justin and Ruben will be there with the Anthem One. So I encourage those of you who will be out there to stop by and check out the light and talk to them yourselves. Then please do let me know in the comments down below what you think afterward. I know the guys will be looking at all of the comments carefully, and they are really good at taking on feedback. And that, for now, is that. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below. You guys continue to be just incredible, knowledgeable, inspiring, funny. I mean, you're a joy, truly. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Grab one or both of our new Hold That Thought t-shirts you wanted us to put up at our new 3BMEPthreadless.com store. Support our work by using our affiliate links down below in the show notes, dropping us coffee money via our PayPal link down below in the show notes, or even better than that, we invite you to become a patron of our work over at Patreon. Link down below. We've created our Patreon page because we are stoked to bring you not only gear reviews, but with our What Were You Thinking and Good World Gone Bad series, historical, educational, artistic morsels, and longer form conversations, not interviews, with world-class photographers, curators, gallery owners, keepers of the legacy, folks like Elliot Irwitt, Anya Sear, Mark Lubell, Etheline Staley, and friends like Brian Smith, Paul Giroux, Nino Rakicevic, and more. We'd really like you to join us to deliver this kind of content regularly. Your support on Patreon will really help us ramp it up. In which case, as always, we thank you for it. That's it. For Three Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. See you next time.